Hello, everybody. Welcome to this meeting, which is organized as part of the International Week, held by the Faculty of Economics at the Technical University of Ostrava. And first, let me introduce Professor Nataliia Slaviuk from the National University of Kiev from Ukraine, who's going to have presentation on economic aspects of emigration on Central and Eastern Europe. And throughout the whole presentation, you can write any questions regarding the presentation on the chat, and then afterwards the Professor Slaviuk can answer them. So I hope that the connection is good and you can hear and see us properly. And now I'm handing over to Professor Slaviuk.
So today we'll talk about immigration and its economic impact on Central and Eastern Europe. And you understand, of course, that migration nowadays is normal phenomena for every economy, yes, and that is understandable that it has a huge impact on every economy in the world. We know that globalization has forced migration nowadays, and it will grow further, definitely. So there is the need to study the impact of the migration on Central and Eastern Europe, as far as that is our region, yes, and that's why I have chosen this topic. So first of all, it's define what is international migration, what is international migrant, yes. And according to the United Nations recommendations on statistics of international migrations, the international migrant is any person who has changed his or her country of usual residence. This definition is very simple. I think you have already seen it. And there are two types of migration. There is emigration and emigration, yes. And emigration, that is relocation, a process of people leaving one country to reside in another one. So if we will look into immigration nowadays, you will see, as I told you, that it's growing rapidly, yes. And during the last year, according to the United Nations Migration Report, the total number of migrants in the world is growing. So we can also that the change there is also in the age of migrants. And it is understandable that, for example, those people who are of the age like 25, 35 years, 39 years, they are migrating more. You can see here from this picture, yes. And of course, more migrants are male migrants. 52% of international migrants are male migrants, and 48% are female migrants. Of course, definitely the age is changing, and nowadays there is a tendency that the young migrants are entering the world, and it's understandable that because there is big, huge tendency of migration of young people, of students nowadays, and they will influence further migration trends. We will look into the history of migration a little bit. In 2000 and 2020, there was a change in migration trends. So the estimated number of international migrants has changed a lot. So it has almost doubled. Yes, you see here from the table. And the proportion of all population for migrants also has changed to 3.5% from 2.8%. Proportion of female international migrants is almost the same, and proportion of international migrants who are children has declined a little bit, just to 13.9%. The highest proportion of international migrants is the region of Oceania, yes, and the country with the highest proportion of international migrants, that is United Arab Emirates. That is understandable as far as this country is rather popular destination. We can see that the global international remittances are growing very, very rapidly, yes, to $689 billion. And number of refugees, of course, because of the different unpredictable conditions, wars and unpleasant conditions in some countries, is also growing rapidly. And that is a big problem for the European Union also. And also there is growing number of international displaced persons. That is a general outlook about the migration, and that migration has its own impact on the countries. So let's look a little bit and think a little bit what is the positive and negative impact of migration on the country. So if you think a little bit, I think that everybody of you will agree that it has some positive impact. Yes. So migrants accounted for 47% of increase in the workforce in the United States and 70% in Europe over the past 10 years. You can, of course, understand that migrants fill important niches both in fast-growing and declining sectors of the economy. That is understandable that sometimes native workers do not want to have places, jobs in agriculture or plants, factories, and migrants, they usually fill these niches, and they are perfectly filling these niches. Of course, also migrants are very good if we are talking about small businesses and services. So a lot of migrants, if you're talking, for example, about Poles in the United Kingdom, they are working like self-employed persons in small businesses, and they are giving a lot of different services. So they are providing a lot of different services which can be influenced and which can be further included into the gross domestic product of the countries. Besides this, migrants contribute more in taxes and social contributions than they receive in benefits. So, for example, in Switzerland and Luxembourg, immigrants provide an estimated about 2% of GDP. You should understand that according to the general economic statistics, nowadays, on average, migrants are influencing positively the countries if you are talking about contribution in taxes. So they pay more than they receive from these countries. And of course, we are not talking about refugees as far as they may receive sometimes benefits in a higher amount than they are paying taxes as far as they are unemployed. But if we are talking about general migrants, those who are working and those who are studying, because usually students, migrants, they also have special jobs for them just to have some extra money. So they are also paying taxes, and that is understandable. So they make contributions to the economy. What else is good for the economy because of migrants? They tend to be more concentrated in the young and economically active age groups. So nowadays, as I told you, migrants are becoming younger. And what is important that they are even become more skilled. They are the skills and contribute to human capital development of receiving countries. And nowadays, there is a tendency that migrants are becoming more and more skilled, and they are professionals in different branches, in science, education, in medicine, in programming. So they are really educated people, and not all of them are working in agriculture or some plants. So they are giving new technologies to countries. So they're contributing to technological progress of the countries, and that's why they are influencing positively the countries to which they come to. Of course, you should understand, and you know this definitely, that there are a negative impact of the migrants for the economy as well. And what can be defined as negative impact? That they also can be very often members of human trafficking, yes, and they often fast to lose their job in the event of economic downturn. So if you're talking about migrants, if we have crisis, for example, if we have global pandemic crisis nowadays, so we understand that in this case, migrants will be maybe the first to lose their job as far as they are not protected as well as native-born people. And that can be the problem for these countries as far as they will be unemployed. They are often working for less pay, for long hours and in worse conditions. And in this case, we can say that there is a brain waste of these people. So we can say that they are not used appropriately their skills, and sometimes they are highly educated professionals in some spheres, and they work just in agriculture or in some kind of services. So that is not appropriate usage of their skills. Also, immigration also can cause firms to adopt less productive technologies, which require more unskilled labor. That means that sometimes some companies, they are thinking that, okay, they can hire people for really small wages, and they are thinking to not to implement some technologies into their process of development of their factory or etc. So also there can be social cohesion, and you know that there are a lot of complaints about migrants in the world nowadays, and many countries, they are not really happy that they're having migrants, and that is social tension, of course, and also that is understandable that in some cases there are also can be even terrorism or different other problems for the economies. Immigrants may theoretically also substitute natives in the workforce. That is understandable. Though, if we are talking about this, on average, that migrants usually just fill in the niches. And if we are talking, for example, about the United Kingdom, you remember that before the Brexit, there were a lot of talks about United Kingdom and that they are receiving a lot of migrants, and that was one of the reasons that the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. But the average statistic has showed that people who are working, those migrants who come to United Kingdom, they are influencing wages of the natives just a little bit. And the amount was so small that scientists asked not to consider even it, because migrants were not influencing the wages of the market so much. Also, it is interesting to remember that migrants to the United Kingdom, for example, they were usually from Central and Eastern Europe, topic of today, yes, and they were educated people, they were Polish, Romanian, Bulgarian people. So this question in Brexit was highly criticized and highly discussed, but anyway, there were a lot of investigations about this topic, and it was written a lot of articles which has shown the information that migrants were influencing the United Kingdom not so bad as it was told before the Brexit, just to influence the Brexit, yes. So that was a little bit about United Kingdom, yes. But I want you to look into details of change of population in Europe. So the top 20 countries with the largest proportional population change in Europe in the years 2009-2019. That is our countries of Central and Eastern Europe. That is Lithuania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Latvia, Andorra not from this list, of course, but there is a change here, Bulgaria, Romania and Croatia. So this is the countries of Central Eastern and Southeastern Europe. They are mostly influenced by the population change in Europe, and that is the reason that people, they are going to other countries. Talking about top 20 European migrant countries in 2019, that is in millions. We can see that is Russian Federation here, yes. Also that is Ukraine, unfortunately, Poland, United Kingdom to some extent, Italy, France, Romania, Portugal, Belarus, Bulgaria, Bosnia and Herzegovina. That is if you're talking about emigrants and emigrants in millions people. And at the same time, if you're talking about percentage of population, so if you're talking about emigrants, the highest level is from Bosnia and Herzegovina. You can see here that is Bulgaria, Portugal, Romania, Ukraine, yes, Belarus, also Poland. So these countries, they have the highest percentage of population of immigrants. And we can see easily that a lot of these countries are from Central and Eastern Europe or Southeastern Europe, yes, sometimes. And you should look more in details into these countries and discuss what are the reasons of migration from these countries and what are the reasons in migration in general. So, what are the migration destinations? Usually, countries, citizens from the countries of Eastern and Central Europe, they go to West. That is normal destination, and that is a historical destination for many years. And since these countries of Central and Eastern Europe, they have joined the European Union in 2004-2007, that number has grown rapidly, and that is understandable because there was a free movement of people in the European Union, and a lot of these countries were having not great conditions, economic conditions this time, and their people, they were moving to the west, southwest, sometimes just to have higher wages. Every 8 in 10 southeastern migrants go to Western Europe, with Germany, Italy, and Spain receiving the bulk, nearly one half. That is a lot, and that is understandable because these countries are more developed and they have higher wages sometimes. Yes, and usually they have higher wages, and that is the reason that people from Central and Eastern Europe move to Western Europe. If you are looking into trends in the world, so again, if you are looking into the region of Eastern Europe, people are going here, that is green lines here. They're going to Western Europe, as I told you, and sometimes they are going to Southern Europe or Central Asia. Of course, we understand that some of the people, they are going to the United States or Canada, but the amounts are not so high that they were not placed here. Mostly the people from South, Central and Eastern Europe, they go to European countries because it's the easiest way, especially if we are talking about the European Union. So the members of the European Union and citizens of these countries, they like and they prefer to go to the countries of the European Union. And conditions are much better in some countries, and that's the reason they are more. So the number of people residing in EU member state citizenship of non-member country on the 1st of January 2009 was 21.8 million people, representing 4.9% of the EU 27 population. That means that those who were not from the European Union and joined the European Union, that is with the countries, if you're talking about Russia, for example, Ukraine, and some other countries of this region, and also, of course, here mentioned in this 21.8 million, I included refugees from different countries, so they are not from the European Union and they are moving into the European Union. In addition, there were 13.3 million persons living in one of EU 27 member states on January 2019 with citizenship of another 27 member states. That means that if we are comparing this number, so 21.8 million people are not from the European Union and they are moving into the European Union, and 13.3 million persons are inside the European Union. So that's just a movement inside the EU. Of course, we can see that the number outside EU is much higher. That's the reason, and that is understandable because there were a lot of refugees during last years, and especially Germany has taken a lot of people as refugees, but also there are a lot of movements inside the EU, and that is normal phenomenon for the European Union, as you know. So what are their decisions to leave the country and to go to another one? So the first one is the per capita income level. So I would like to talk about this a little bit more, because during the last 25 years, as it was investigated, a lot of people have moved from Central and Eastern Europe to Western Europe just because the per capita income level was high, yes, and the wages were high and the people moved to Western Europe. Another point that is quality of institutions, and I would like to say that this argument is very important, especially for skilled workers. So they want to have special good developed institutions. I mean, different bodies which these migrants can refer to, and they are interested in them, and that's the reason they are migrating. Another point which is important to call that is employment prospects, because if you have the possibility to develop your career, for example, or to have higher wages or higher benefits, that means that perhaps different benefits at work, yes, so that means that you can choose another country sometimes. Also, there was like social benefits, and social benefits usually were more important for unskilled workers. And if you're talking about quality of institutions, they were more important for skilled workers, yes, of course. So that is understandable, and I think also we can add here one of the reasons, sometimes even climate, yes, and because a lot of people from Central Eastern Europe, which were chosen, for example, Southern Europe, they were thinking about climate. Yeah, they were thinking about good weather, sun and sea, and that was the reason that they were chosen these countries. As far as if you are moving, sometimes the reason is not only wage, but also some conditions. Not only institutions, but climate and mentality of people. So sometimes, if you are talking about Ukraine, for example, citizens of Ukraine, they choose the countries which are closer in mentality, like Slovak Republic, Czech Republic, Poland, like because they are more closer in mentality, and also they are choosing very often Spain because they like the temper of the people and they like climate conditions. So that's the reason that sometimes people choose other countries. So if you're talking about people who emigrated from selected Central and Eastern European countries until 2019, we can see that the numbers are really huge as for me. So from Bosnia and Herzegovina, more than 30% of people have moved. Yes, and Albania, that is around 30%, Moldova more than 25%, Bulgaria more than 15%, Lithuania more than 15%, Romania, Latvia, Estonia more, around 15%, yes, Belarus, Serbia, Ukraine more than 10%, Poland, you see also more than 10%, and Czechia, that is less, around 7-8%. But all these countries, they have lost a lot of their population, to tell the truth. And especially if we are talking about the Balkan countries, they had really huge movement of people when they joined the European Union, and that was a really big problem for the economies of these countries. And if you're talking about Estonia, for example, they had really good examples how to stop people. They were trying to employ them in the government sector of the economy, and they were trying to stop them from movement just with the increase of wages. And you remember that Estonia is a developed country in programming, so that was made a particular investment into this sphere of government investment, and a lot of programmers were employed in their government institutions, and they were receiving huge salaries. So the movement of people stopped a little bit, but still you can see that they have lost a lot of people until 2019. But there are a lot of good examples how to stop the movement, and we will talk about this later a little bit. Anyway, you can see that a lot of countries of Central and Eastern Europe, that they are losing their population, and special cases of Bulgaria, for example, which has lost almost 20% of its population after the joining the European Union. And you understand that it's influencing really huge countries. Yes, Romania, which is losing a lot of professionals. And nowadays, there will be the case of Belarus, and you understand that there were, and maybe you know, there were a huge movement of Belarusian people to Poland during all the history, as far as there are a lot of connections there. But after these last events, that is predictable that a lot of people will ask for help, and they will try to move from Belarus, and they will try to move not even to Poland, but other countries of the European Union. That is understandable because of the political conditions. Anyway, you know that maybe pandemic is influencing the migration, yes, nowadays, and the movement of people is not so high as it was before, but it will end one day, we hope, yes, and migration trends will continue. So countries should be prepared to them and just to know how to fit people. So if you're talking about immigration trends in general, a total of 22 of the European Union 27 member states reported more immigration than emigration in 2018, yes. So they received more people than they were losing, and they were receiving, of course, people outside the European Union as well. But Bulgaria, Croatia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Romania, the number of emigrants outnumbers the number of immigrants. Yes, and that is important to talk about these countries as far as they were losing a lot of people. Though nowadays there is also a tendency of changing about Baltic countries, so they're losing less, and they also receiving a lot of migrants from post-Soviet countries, like Ukraine, for example. We have a tendency that a lot of people nowadays are going to Baltic countries because of good conditions and good attitude to Ukrainians from these countries. So in general, if we are talking about immigrants, which countries receive the most? Yes, we were talking about those countries which were losing people and which countries receive the most of the people. So that was, of course, Malta, Luxembourg, Cyprus, Ireland, Spain, to some extent Slovenia, yes, and nowadays Estonia. Also, it is nice to mention such countries as Ireland, United Kingdom, yes, and Norway, Scandinavian countries. And so they are receiving a lot of people nowadays. If you're talking about immigrants by nationality in 2018, of course, that reason this year is because Eurostat gives general information a little bit with luck, yes, and that is understandable that, for example, such countries as Romania, Slovakia, Lithuania, Poland, and Bulgaria, they were having more nationals. I mean, nationals of the European Union, those who are citizens of the European Union, more than non-nationals. The reason was that they were just replaced by countries' neighbors. For example, Estonia was going to Latvia, Latvia to Lithuania, yes, and they were going to Poland, to Slovakia, and they were just moving inside the European Union. And other countries like Finland, Greece, Netherlands, Cyprus, Germany, Slovenia, Italy, Sweden, Belgium, Spain, Austria, Czechia, Malta, Luxembourg, they were receiving more people from outside the European Union and not from inside the European Union. And of course you remember, and I think you have learned already, that according to different decisions of the members of the European Union, of the policymakers, these countries, they were taking a lot of migrants from outside the European Union, a lot of refugees, especially if we are talking about Germany, for example. It's receiving around 1 million of people every year, and it's a lot. So to tell the truth, they are returning back almost half of them. And anyway, these countries, they are receiving a lot of migrants, and the question is what to do with them and how to fit them perfectly. So the relative share of native-born immigrants with the total number of immigrants was the highest in Bulgaria and Lithuania, followed by Romania and Estonia. What is also important that the number of EU citizens that are usual residents in the rest of the EU as of January 2019. So the countries which has the highest number of migrants in the European Union, that was Romania, around 3 million people of Romanian citizens. They were placed in some countries of the European Union. Also, around 1.5 million Polish people, they also were living in the European Union, in other countries of the European Union. And of course, all of you remember there was a big tendency of Polish people going to the United Kingdom. But nowadays, a lot of Polish people, they are going to Germany also. And that's the main tendency of Polish migrancy. And also a lot of Italian people, Portuguese from Bulgaria, also around 1 million people, migrants are living in other cities, in other countries. Germany, France, Spain, Croatia, Netherlands, they are also around 0.5 million. The tendency that still migration is growing, and if we are talking about different years, we have seen that the total number of migrants is growing, and also the total number of migrants from Central and Eastern Europe is growing as well. If we are talking about some countries inside the European Union, so for example, Romanians became citizens of Italy mostly and Germany, and they were the main group of people who were moving into the other countries of the European Union, and that was a huge outflow from Romanian economy. Around half of all acquisitions of citizens was by Poles, and they were becoming citizens of Germany recently, the recent years, and that is around 6.2%. But if we are talking about official data, of course, and half of Italians become citizens of Germany, they are not from Eastern Europe, but they are from Southern Europe, and also this region is very influenced by migration as well. And that is a normal and general tendency of the migration in the European Union. What is important that professions of migrants are changing. And if we were talking about Romanian people, so there were a lot of discussions about movement from Romania nowadays, and also from Poland and Slovakia as they joined the European Union. And for example, they have lost a lot of their medical workers, and a lot of medical professionals from these countries, they have moved to Western Europe. So it is estimated that by 2015, Romania had lost half of its doctors. And there were a lot of publications also in the World Bank that they were discussing the problem of movement of people from these regions, Romania, Poland, and Slovakia. That's why that they were discussed that there was movement not only from medical workers, but also different scientists, educational specialists, teachers, a lot of nurses, of course, they are inside medical workers, and they were losing their qualifications sometimes, but very often they were working like doctors in other countries. And for example, in Poland, it was discussed that the average age of medical workers has become around 50 years. That is really old, and that was the problem because a lot of Polish workers has moved to other countries of the European Union. Also nowadays we have the same problem in Ukraine, that a lot of medical workers, they are also thinking about movement to other countries of the European Union and to other countries in the world. For example, also the United States of America sometimes. And that's a problem, huge problem, and Of course, we don't have it so much as Romania, Poland, and Slovakia, but it may rise in future. And I have had a lot of questions from doctors nowadays how to move to other country. So that is a big problem, and it may rise in Ukraine as well. So you should study their experience of Romania, Poland, and Slovakia, and we should search the ways to stop migration to other countries. If you're talking about Czech Republic, I think you can tell me more than I can tell you. And definitely you know much more. When I was searching the information about Czech Republic, it mostly was about immigration, not emigration. And I think that is really good that Czech people are not moving so much from Czech Republic as as Poles or Romanians, Bulgarians. So they are satisfied with the conditions in their country. Of course, there was some moments after the Second World War, yes, and anyway, the total number of people with Czech roots or backgrounds living abroad was estimated by Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Czech Republic, and it is around 2.5 million people. It's not so much, but that is of course official data, and we understand that sometimes unofficial data is not so pleasant. But anyway, this number is really small if they compare with Poland or other Bulgaria, Romania, other countries of the European Union. Of course, there was a change during the communist regime in Czech Republic. It was almost 500,000 Slovak citizens which left the country because of political and economic reasons. And if to compare usually the official and official data, some scientists say that unofficial data can be around 1.5 and twice more. But that is just some decisions and some opinions of some scientists, yes. Talking about Ukraine, that is more understandable for me, and I can tell more about Ukraine than about Czech Republic. And that is a big problem of our country, migration nowadays. And according to the World Bank rankings, Ukraine is the first largest supplier of migrant populations globally, yes, and the first among Central and Eastern European countries nowadays. So we had a huge change of migration after the year 2014, when the war began, and a lot of people from Eastern Europe, Eastern Ukraine, they have changed their place of residence. They have moved to other districts of Ukraine, and that also was a problem for us. And they also have moved to many countries of the European Union. Almost 25% of the country's economically active population have experience of working abroad, and that is different experience, to tell the truth. Sometimes there's people who are working a full-time job or even part-time job. We have a lot of IT companies nowadays which have employees from Israel, United Kingdom, United States, a lot from the United States of America. And of course, they are paying taxes here, or they are working sometimes as a lot of freelancers in Ukraine nowadays, which are working for abroad companies. But anyway, also there are a lot of migrants, those who are moving the border, yes, and those who are working especially in Poland. So we have a lot of migrants in Poland, and around 1-2 million of people. That is official data, but unofficial says that is also more. And these people are moving for a short period, usually for summer. And we had even a problem during pandemic that Polish economy was needing Ukrainian workers, yes, and a lot of employees in Poland, they were trying to find Ukrainian workers, and they were just even paying some medical care, etc., just to to receive people from Ukraine to gather the harvest. But that is about agriculture and plants. There are a lot of plants near the border of Ukraine in Poland. And the scientists of the World Bank, they say that some countries like Poland, also their neighbors, they even need migrants because they need to feed the places which were moved from the migration of Polish people, for example. Yes, and as far as Poland has lost a lot of their people which were going to United Kingdom and Germany, they needed people to replace these places, yes, the workplaces, and they needed people from Ukraine, for example. But nowadays there is a tendency that not only people for agriculture plants, they are going to Poland or other countries of the European Union. We have a tendency that a lot of skilled people are going abroad. And we have a tendency that a lot of students, they are going to countries of the European Union and they are staying there, they are receiving a job and they staying for permanent residence. And what is understandable, that is a problem as far as we are losing the potential of our country. And what is important that nowadays not only medical workers, scientists, teachers, but a lot of programmers, they are going to the European Union or even to the United States of America and Canada. A lot of engineers, and that is a problem for the economy as we are losing our brains, yes, and that is really a huge problem, and I think in future it will be even more, as far as government unfortunately doesn't pay much attention to it. Ukraine is one of the most migration-affected countries in Europe, with a diaspora of up to 20 million people, 1.36 million internally displaced persons, and a cadre of 1.3 million labor migrants contributing to remittances of $11 billion, 10% of GDP. So to tell the truth, we are receiving a lot of remittances from migrants as far as they are sending a lot of money back to Ukraine, and also they are sending a lot of things which they buy in the European Union, so they are stimulating the consumption in the European Union, they are sending home to their children or their relatives, and they're influencing a lot the Ukrainian economy as far as remittances are really high, you see that in percent of GDP. And during the pandemic, there were worries that maybe this number will drop, but what was surprising is that it hasn't dropped very much, because still there are a lot of migrants to Poland, for example, and they were sending remittances to Ukraine. Experts estimate that there are approximately 3 million Ukrainian migrants workers abroad at any given time, majority in Europe, with Poland, Italy, the Czech Republic, and since recently Baltic states being main destination countries among the EU member states. So we can say that Ukrainians are moving a lot to the countries' neighbors of the European Union, and those who have the similar mentality, similar languages, yes, and also if you're talking about Baltic countries, there is really good attitude to Ukrainians there because of the war with Russian Federation, and recent years a lot of Ukrainians are going to Baltic countries and they feel good there. So the main trains and the main destinations you see, that is Northern Europe, and also Sweden is rather popular in Ukraine, and Poland, Germany, France, yes, and Spain, Portugal, Italy. Italy was popular during the previous century very much, but nowadays it's mostly like the destinations has changed, and they mostly like Germany, Baltic countries, and also the United States of America. And a lot of Ukrainians, they are receiving green cards, like programmers, and they are going to the United States of America, and they're influencing the GDP of USA, not Ukraine. So that can be a big problem for our state, as far as programming is developing really good nowadays, and there are cities in Ukraine which have a lot of programmers, but all of them are working for international companies, or they are thinking to move to other countries to become migrants. So it would be nice to implement some rules like in Estonia, for example, just to stop migration of programmers, as far as there is a huge potential in them, yes. But also a lot of Polish universities, they have Ukrainian students, and to tell the truth, they like them. It's because they are really good in math, as they Polish professors say to us, yes, and that means that a lot of Ukrainians are happy to go to Poland, to any other countries, especially Germany nowadays, to receive education there, but not in Ukraine. Also, you have a tendency that some students are receiving bachelor degree in Ukraine, and they are moving to other countries to receive master degree, and so they have the possibility to stay in these countries. So the desired countries to work abroad for Ukrainian citizens, as I told you, nowadays it's mostly Germany, and we remember that there was a law in Germany, yes, and this law was adopted by the parliament, and according to this law, there were a lot of propositions to receive more migrants to Germany, but skilled migrants, yes, and we understand that some countries sometimes need skilled migrants, and so skilled professionals, they are filling these niches. Though also Ukrainians are willing to go to Poland, also, as I mentioned, Czech Republic, that is historical, and Italy also, it was very popular during the previous century. Canada after the Second World War, and still now there are a lot of people who are going to Canada, United States of America. Russian Federation, Russian Federation, those who during the war, they were thinking to move to Russia, as far as they were native Russians, or they were connected with Russians, yes, and they have chosen Russia as their country of origin, yes. But also before the war, there were a lot of people who were working in Russian Federation, but nowadays they have cancelled their agreements, and because of the war conditions, they have changed their destinations to the European Union. They don't want to work for the Russian Federation anymore. Another country that is Great Britain, Spain, and Israel, of course. What are the number of potential migrants among the population? I have chosen here 3 countries. Ukraine is not the leader in this among these 3 countries, among the Republic of Moldova, Republic of Belarus. Ukraine only is the 3rd in 2019. Yes, but still there are more than 10% of people of the population of the country which want to go abroad and to work in other countries. Also, Republic Belarus has higher numbers, more than 15%, and Republic of Moldova almost 20%. But to tell the truth, for example, if you can see, as you can see from this picture, the Republic of Moldova had higher numbers of people willing to work in the other countries, for example, also the European Union, and it was almost 30% in 2017. Of course, these numbers will change, and as we were talking before, maybe in Belarus the numbers will be higher during the last crisis, yes, and because of the political conditions. If you're talking about Ukraine and Poland, there is a huge route between these countries of workers and migrants. And there was investigation of the Narodowy Bank Polski, the Central Bank of Poland, about the influence of Ukrainians on Polish economy, and they have researched that 13% of Poland's GDP growth was connected to contribution of Ukrainian workers. Yes, so Ukrainian workers, they were contributed a lot to the growth of Polish economy, and that was the reason that during pandemic, for example, a lot of people were invited to Poland to help their Polish economy. And that's the reason, of course, that Polish workers, they are going to Western Europe and they should be replaced by someone. And World Bank also said that some other countries of European Union, like Romania, Baltic countries, Bulgaria, even sometimes Czechoslovakia, they need people to fill the places which were empty because of movement of migrants. And that's why they need migrants from other countries sometimes, and of course better skilled migrants than unskilled. But anyway, we can say that there is a problem with migration. Of course, I was talking you that migration usually gives a lot of benefits to the countries, but I'm sorry. Still, there are a lot of negative tendencies, and what is important is that there is a tension in the countries, and a lot of people, I think in every country, they are not very happy if their cultural identity is lost. So, for example, there was a European Commission survey, and in 2018, it found that 4 in 10 Europeans view immigration as more problem than an opportunity, yes. And now we have seen that migrants, they usually contribute more in taxes that it is spent for them. But anyway, people inside the European Union, of course, they are not happy because of the migrants, especially if we are talking about refugees. In a separate survey conducted in 10 European Union countries by the Pew Research Center, more than half said that they want fewer immigrants in their countries. So that's even more than half, and that is understandable, to tell the truth. And you know that, of course, in any country of the European Union, or even outside the European Union, they do not want a lot of migrants because they are influencing their mentality, their cultural identity, their behavior. Of course, they're influencing the style of life. And I have had a lot of opinions of German professors, which were talking that they're not happy about migrants because they're influencing even their culture and culture of their children. And so, of course, Germany is receiving a lot of migrants, and a lot of migrants from Asia, a lot of migrants from Africa. And anyway, they are not happy about this, and that is understandable because everyone, even Ukrainian person, wants Germany to be Germany, yes, and to have their cultural identity, and to see that it's united and developed country. And even I was surprised when I saw places to pray in Frankfurt airport for Muslims, and it was like a surprise for me, and I understood that the culture of the Germany is changing, and of course that is anyway, that is inevitable, and it will happen because of globalization, and migrants will exist. But the question is to which extent and how to feed them well. So if we are talking about consequences of migration, the first negative consequence of emigration for the countries which are losing the people, that is reduce the size of labor force. Definitely that will influence the productivity of the labor force in the country, yes, and it also will influence the gross domestic product of the country. And the tension between the workers and competitiveness. Anyway, it will slow the per capita income in the country, and that is understandable. That is completely negative for the countries which are losing people, and there is an increase of social spendings in relation to GDP in the countries which are losing their workers. And what is interesting is that remittances are usually considered good, yes, as far as countries receive more money from migrants. They send a lot of cash home, but anyway, these remittances can reduce incentives to work. There was an investigation, research, and sometimes people which receive the money from abroad, they are spending it only for consumption and not investments. And even if they are spending the money to investments, it's usually like to buy apartment, to buy a car, but not to invest in business, not to invest in the country they are living in. So remittances, they are often considered not the best way to develop the country and to influence the gross domestic product of the country, as far as they do not have the further process of development, the further investments. So even though there are a lot of talkings that remittances still are good, they are not so good sometimes. Other consequences of emigration will be in further years, yes, and it is shown by research that net migration flows during the next years, consistent with Eurostat and UN projections, would reduce the level of real GDP as well as GDP per capita across all net sending countries. The cumulative output loss may be as large as close to 9%. It's a lot, it's completely a huge number, and also it is discussed that it may be even higher. Intent GDP per capita could decline by about 4% in some countries. Some Baltic countries would be particularly affected, followed by Bulgaria and Romania. In an adverse scenario based on the historical pattern of migration, the cumulative output loss would be much larger, exceeding 15% in some countries. So the influence on the countries can be really huge in future, yes. Future impacted by migration from the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. So we are discussing a lot about tendencies of migration. Not maybe a lot, and we can say much more because there is a big, huge topic, can be a book. But anyway, the question arises how to stop migration, yes? We can say that some countries need migrants, and even some countries of Central Europe, they need migrants, yes? But migration still is not good, emigration is not good for the countries as far as they are losing their workers. And there should be policies to stop emigration. So which can be the policies? The first one, that is strengthening institutions and economic policies, yes? So that is like strengthening the institutions, or governmental institutions, fiscal monetary policy, everything just to make the GDP per capita grow and to develop the country and to stop the movement of people. Also, another point that can be better placement of remaining workforce by increasing labor force participation and productivity, relation of labor market and education. So that this was rather important after the previous crisis of 2008-2009, yes, that there were a lot of researches about connection of a labor market and education. And it was investigated that there is no such good practical connection between education and labor market. And in some countries like Netherlands, Germany, there were made changes in education to make the labor market and education more connected. And that is really good because it helps to find a job and it helps these people to stay in the country and not move to another one, searching good opportunities. Another point that is better leveraging of remittances to promote investment rather than consumption. And if we are talking about investment, I would like to say to promote business activity, the development of services, etc., just to develop the national economy, not just through the consumption. And mitigating adverse fiscal impacts of immigration. What is important, in some countries there are special policies how to stop migration. If we are talking especially about Estonia, which is trying to stop the movement of people, there are some interesting policies in Poland as far as they even trying to influence the mentality of people and influence the feelings of people via different advertisements, etc., just to stop people from movement. But still, there are a lot of problems in countries of Central and Eastern Europe with emigration, and these questions should be discussed, and there should be more and more policies implemented just to stop the movement of people and to stop the such huge numbers of emigrations. That we understand that in general, according to the research, for the European Union, it is good to have migrants from other members of the European countries, members of the European Union, as far as they are filling the niches. But anyway, it is not good for those countries who are losing the people. So the question is how to stop this movement, and also another important question is how to feed these people inside these niches appropriately. Yes, for example, if we have the tendency that people are moving to other countries, so the question arises how to make them work appropriately, to find places to contribute more into the development of the country. And in this case, it would be nice to study, for example, the experience of Canada, which has a lot of migrants, and still they are placing them very good, and they have special recruiting agencies for migrants, free recruiting agencies, which help these migrants to fit properly the places and to contribute to the development of Canadian economy. So the question is how to stop to some extent, and if it's not possible, how to fit the places properly and how to influence the labor market. The best way just to receive more contributions from the migration, from emigration. Okay, I think that is all for today I wanted to say to you, but I will be very happy to receive your questions and discuss a little bit this topic, as far as I think it's very controversial. And I'm very thankful to all the team of the International Week for the possibility to have the presentation today.
Okay, so thank you very much, Nataliia, for very interesting topic and a lot of useful information that we received from you. And now I think it's time for discussion, for some questions, and I can see that the students have written 2 questions, so I can read them to you and you can answer. Yeah. So the first question is, looking at the numbers of immigrants from Romania, Poland, and so on, are the governments in those countries employing any policies to bring their citizens back to their country? So, yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you for the question. And yes, they are implementing the policies, especially if we are talking about Poland. They're implementing the policies and special policies connected to the migration, and they are trying to stop people from movement. And they have special procedures, including different instruments, how to stop the movement of people. If you're talking about Romania and Bulgaria, I haven't found so much information about the policies, mostly Poland. And anyway, there are such policies. And as I told you, even like a small example, like advertisements in Poland, just to influence the feelings of Polish citizens and not to move to other countries. And but the most important in these policies, that is to influence the development of the country. So Polish economy is developing rather good lately, yes, and that I think will be the main reason for people to stay. And the development of infrastructure is really huge, and that is also argument for a lot of people not to go to another country, because people like infrastructure to be developed, to see the development of institutions, to see, to feel the future, and to see that there is a movement in the change, there is a change in the country. So I think at least for Polish economy, this all these policies will be good to stop migration. Of course, maybe not so good for Romania, but anyway, some examples can be implemented from other countries as well.
Okay, so thank you for your answer. And now the second question is, what do you think about migration quotas? Do you think it really helps? Isn't it better to help people in their economies if we are talking about, underdeveloped countries? So isn't it better to help people to stay in their countries and to develop them in that place?
Okay, that is very controversial question, I think, and there are a lot of discussions about this, but I understand why these quotas exist. They exist to stop a huge amount of refugees, because countries, they just need to deal later with the amount of refugees, and that's why they're implementing quotas. But also the countries of the European Union, they're giving a lot of help to other countries, like in Africa or in Asia, yes, in Central Asia, just to help with their problems and to stop migration. So, but the question is where the money goes usually, and sometimes it is hard to see the roots, yes, and the placement of money. And still, if you're talking about some countries in Central Asia, a lot of people are going, for example, to Turkey, and they have problems with refugees, really huge, unbelievable problems. But so, for example, countries of the European Union, they are helping Turkey to deal with refugees. The question is to choose quotas or to choose help. I think both can be combined, because okay, maybe quotas is not good if you're talking about being human, yes, being good to someone. But I understand these quotas. I understand why countries are doing this. They are just protecting their economies from the influence of refugees. That's the reason they are doing this.
Okay, thank you very much. And these were the questions from our students. And now if I can have 1 or 2 points or questions. So the first one, you were talking about the consequences of emigration, and you said that one of the consequences is that it slows down per capita income. But I think, or isn't it vice versa, because people are migrating because of the lack of adequate jobs that they could have at home, in the country at home. So I think that emigration can even help those countries to reduce number of unemployed and poverty in the country. So I think that the slowing down of per capita income is not a consequence of emigration, but maybe the reason of the emigration. What
Yes, okay. Thank you. I understand that migration can have positive influence, as you mentioned, yes, so regarding unemployment, etc. But still, for the total gross domestic product of the country, migration is not good, yes. So those countries which have a lot of emigrants, they are losing these people, and remittances cannot cover this gap.
Yeah, okay, but if they can't find a job at home, so it's not like the slowing of GDP per capita because that GDP wasn't produced there. So yeah, so I understand that it's the loss, especially the brain drain is very, very negative for the future development of the country. But probably I just wanted to say that for me the GDP per capita is the reason why people are going somewhere else, not the consequence. But of course, that human capital they are losing human capital, and it's very negative for the future development. And and my second question or comment is it was very interesting to me that there is so huge Balkan like I don't want to say exodus, but a lot of immigration from Balkan countries, and then recently it was replacing by Ukrainians. Yeah, if I understood well.
Not in such huge numbers, but it is replacing, yes, a little bit, because Ukrainians are interested in Balkan countries.
Yeah, and
Baltic countries.
And why do you think so? How can you explain the flow of Ukrainians coming to Balkans? Do the Balkan governments do something to attract Ukrainians or other migrants?
It was the reason, there were several reasons, to tell the truth. Firstly, it was really easy and fast before the cancellation of visa to receive visa to Baltic countries in Ukraine. So like governments of the Baltic countries, they were had good attitude to Ukraine. And especially when the war began in the east of Ukraine with the Russian Federation, this attitude has changed. So Baltic countries, they are like having good attitude to Ukrainians. And you know, if you are a migrant, it's important to you, yes, to feel comfortable in the country. And besides, they had better conditions for visa, they had some possibilities to travel and to stay in these countries, and good attitude. And also nowadays this tendency will change, maybe because a lot of Ukrainians are talking that they won't go to Germany. Now they're thinking about Germany, like especially if you're talking about students, they are thinking about Germany. So who knows?
Okay. Thank you very much. And now I can see one more question from students, so I can read it now. Do you think that the migration flows in Europe will ever reverse, given the economic conditions in Western and Southern Europe countries like Spain and
Please,
Italy?
camera, Lenka.
Yeah, I should have camera. Okay. I don't know if but I will not. I don't know if I'm seen there.
Yeah, I see. Could you please repeat the question?
Okay. The question was, do you think that the migration flows in Europe will ever reverse, given the economic conditions in Western and Southern Europe countries, or Spain or Italy? So the student probably wanted to say if we can expect that maybe that in future people will go from the Western countries to the Eastern countries.
Okay, I don't. It will depend on the development of our countries, of Eastern countries, I think, definitely. So development, GDP per capita, yeah, will influence everything.
Yeah, because we can see Spain and Italy and their economic conditions are not very good, and now in the times of pandemic, especially in Spain, it's really bad. So maybe we can see the reverse flows.
Yes, maybe, at least maybe to Central Europe, I think. It may be.
Okay, okay. So I don't see any more questions from students. Maybe my last point, because I see it's very interesting to discuss with you about migration, is about the aging of population in developed countries, especially in Western countries. So it's usually pointed that the immigrants can replace the lack of the domestic labor force, so that migration will be important for developed countries in future, especially when it comes to aging of population. So what's your opinion or your point of this discussion?
Yes, I totally agree with you that it will help maybe to stop the population aging, maybe to prevent it a little bit. As far as migrants usually are becoming younger nowadays, yes, and they may replace old workers. But also I want to mention that to my mind, migration is not bad. It's not bad and it's normal phenomena and will exist and it exists and existed, yes. And just globalization, and that's the reason that there is migration. And because of wars, because of different conditions in the countries, and it always was and it always will be. But the question is, I think the most important, how to feed these people correctly, so that they were doing the best for the countries they live and trying to adopt good into the culture. Yes, if they are coming to Germany or to Spain, they should know a lot about the culture of Germany and Spain and try to be more adaptable here. Yes, so that is the main question to my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Now I can see another question from students. Is it really an advantage for receiving countries that immigrants work for low wages? In the short term, you can help economy, but in the long term, this feeling of injustice led to Brexit, which will have a serious impact on all national budgets across Europe. And because there are almost no regulations for immigration flows, could it cause more cases of Brexit in the EU? Yeah, it's a very good question.
Yeah, to tell the truth, low wages, that is mostly negative. That is negative aspect of migration, yes, because a lot of countries they were hit by this flows of migrants, and the lower wages they were influencing their native workers. Yes, so for example, they were replacing native workers because they were able to work for lower wages. And if you're talking about Brexit and United Kingdom, there are a lot of controversial questions about the UK. Yes, and to my mind, they didn't have so much problems with migrants as they thought. So they were discussing this before Brexit, but if to analyze the publications of scientists, migrants were contributing a lot to the United Kingdom. So that was just maybe speculation on this question before the referendum. Yes, you remember this. It was talked a lot and a lot.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So thank you for that. So I would have the very similar answer or reaction to that question, that it was exaggerated by the media, and that the Brexit was not caused especially by those by immigrants, especially from Poland, but it was presented like that. Yeah, yeah. So I don't see any more questions here, and I don't have more questions now, so maybe it's time to thank Professor Nataliia Slaviuk for very interesting topic and a lot of nice points, and I also thank to students for very nice reactions and questions. And let me finish this meeting, and I hope that we will meet Nataliia Slaviuk in person one day. So thank you all very much for this meeting, and especially Nataliia Slaviuk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have been in Strava on International Week, and it was really a pleasure for me to be there in person. And I hope one day I will return back, not online but offline, and just to walk in Strava again, because it's a very nice city. I like it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.